Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a flight out of the Jacksonville International Airport to the Fort Lauderdale International Airport, and I'm flying on JetBlue. This is the first time I'm bringing the Jacksonville, Florida airport to my channel, and if you're a fan of this airport, you're in luck because I'll have more to come in future videos. I'm excited and I'm swiftly walking through the parking garage to the airline terminal because there, a JetBlue plane is waiting for me airside. It has been years since I've flown on JetBlue. Today I'll be flying on an Airbus A320. The entry to the terminal is across the street from the parking garage. It's early in the morning and I'm grateful for the short walk. Let's head inside. The JetBlue ticket counters are behind me, but with no bag to check, I'm gonna head directly to TSA. JetBlue's operation here is small, with flights to LaGuardia Airport and to its focus cities of Fort Lauderdale, Boston, and JFK. My flight to Fort Lauderdale allows passengers to connect. Today, I'm using Fort Lauderdale as a destination, not a connecting airport. This airport's terminal, unlike other major JetBlue airports, is shared by many airlines, so there's a generic look throughout the terminal. This isn't a hub or focus city for any airline, so there's nothing specific in terms of branding for airlines. The only JetBlue branding that you'll see in this video is in the check-in area as well as the gate area. Walking this way, I could be flying on any carrier, but today it's JetBlue. JetBlue began operations 23 years ago in February 2000 by David Neeleman, who went on to found Azul, Brazilian Airlines, and very recently, Breeze Airways. Today, JetBlue has over 280 aircraft in its fleet of A320s, various types of A321s, Embraer 190s, and A220s. Headquartered in New York City, it now operates to over 100 destinations and now even flies to Europe. The airline has come a long way since its early phases, and I can't wait to see what my experience will be like, so let's head on over to TSA. Okay, I just completed TSA. I entered my known traveler number into my reservation on JetBlue, so I used TSA pre-check. It was easy, 1, 2, 3, right through security. And one of the first things I did post-TSA was go to the FID screen, which showed departure times for all airlines, to see what my gate would be. Okay, so here's a little bit of information about my seat selection for today's flight. In JetBlue, there is no first class, so I am sitting in the economy section. I've chosen a seat in the rear section of the aircraft because I don't want to get any obstructed wing views. I've got a regular economy seat today, and I've chosen a seat on the right-hand side of the airplane. Why? Well, number one, if you're flying southbound from Jacksonville to Florida, chances are very high that you're going to get a great view of the Atlantic shoreline, so I want to make sure I get that. And in addition, the sun is going to be on the left-hand side of the airplane as the sun rises, so I want to be able to reduce sun glare. It's time to head on over to gate Alpha 4 to check out my A320. And what a special treat today. November 763 Juliet Bravo, a special paint scheme JetBlue A320. This is an interesting livery. Even though JetBlue started in 2000, the designers of this particular airplane decided to create a livery from the 1960s. Airlines will sometimes paint an airplane in an old paint scheme from decades ago, but this one is entirely made up and is designed to look like what a JetBlue airplane would have looked like if it were around in the 1960s. Of the 16 specially painted airplanes in their fleet, this is the most unique and thought-provoking. Many of their other paint schemes are straightforward and honor sports teams or other groups, but this airplane is pure imagination, and it's got a neat name. What's old is blue again. The fact that I'm on this special plane today is setting the mood for what's going to be a great flight. This was a real pleasant surprise for me, and I can't wait to become airborne on this A320, which was originally painted in standard JetBlue colors. It's going to be a short flight, but I'm going to make the most of it on this beautiful morning here in North Florida, all the way down to South Florida. It's now time for boarding here at Alpha 4 at JAX. My flight number to Fort Lauderdale is 17, so let's head down the jet bridge and board this really unique airplane. The first thing I noticed in the A320's 3x3 seating configuration were the even more space seats in the first few rows. These seats have, as the name implies, even more space, with up to 38 inches of legroom. 22 Foxtrot is my seat today. I have 7 less inches of legroom, but who cares when you've got a window seat? But I'm really impressed with the interior, which looks fresh and new, despite this being a 14-year-old airframe. It's clear that the interior is very well maintained. I found the legroom to be more than sufficient. The overhead panel for light and air was simple and appeared easy to use, although I didn't touch it for the short flight. And that middle seat, well, I got really lucky, and it was empty the entire flight. My seat is a window, and before we push back, I'm ensuring it's clean for photography outside. Welcome to Flight 17 to FLL. First impressions, very, very comfortable cabin. Why pay extra for those extra legroom seats? I've got a lot of legroom here. The legroom and underseat storage were really good on this plane. My only complaint, and this has nothing to do with JetBlue, is that A320 windows are too small. Since it's been years flying on JetBlue, I reviewed the safety card, an important thing to do before any flight. And very important for me, the window is very well aligned with the seat. I'm enjoying this vacant area before the rest of the passengers board. Each seat had a menu, but I suspected this was for service for a much longer flight. I really liked the in-flight entertainment screen, and one of my favorite features that it was personalized with my name on it. I signed in to personalize my experience and was given instructions on how to use the Wi-Fi, which was free and fast. I can't wait to use it all the way down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the destination that JetBlue just reminded me I'm flying to. So far, I'm really enjoying the JetBlue experience.
Team with service to Fort Lauderdale. Going to be on our way here shortly. Once we get going, it's just 56 minutes en route, so sit back, relax, enjoy the flight. Thank you.
There seemed to be a good flight entertainment selection, including movies for short flights, but if you know me, in-flight entertainment is called looking out the window. Before pushing back, I viewed some information about this flight, but the arrival time was wrong. Our departure time was actually 8:19 a.m., making the shown arrival time impossible. I did enjoy seeing the aircraft's name on the screen, however. Okay, let the in-flight entertainment begin. It's time for pushback on the Jacksonville Airport's terminal ramp. After pushback, the tug was removed and we started our engines. We then began to taxi to runway 8 under the guidance of Jacksonville Ground Control. Jacksonville Ground Control handed us off to Jacksonville Tower, and we were cleared for takeoff on the 10,000-foot runway 8. I wasn't expecting that water on the window, but the plane was wet from an early morning storm that passed over the airport. This plane had spent the night on the ground in Jacksonville. As we switched to the control of the departure controller, we climb. This aircraft uses 2 International Aero engines, specifically the V2527-A5. These engines are 2-shaft high-bypass turbofan engines and are used across the A320 family except the smaller and rare A318. This specific engine version increases thrust to 33,000 pound-force. We climbed to the south immediately after takeoff. Gotta love this view of the JAX airport. The airport is located north of the city of Jacksonville, and we'll pass by the city in a few moments. My seat on the right side of the plane will allow me to see downtown Jacksonville today. After Jacksonville, we'll proceed out over the coastline and continue south. We won't fly over the land again until over the Fort Lauderdale area. If you're a fan of this channel, you know that I focus very heavily on the view from the window seat, so for this part of the video, it's irrelevant what airline we're on because up here, all flights are treated equally in the national airspace, and a view is a view, no matter what the carrier is, so let's continue on in a southern direction. We're in a busy flight corridor. This Delta A321 above us is flying from Orlando to Boston, and immediately after passing this plane, we begin to see the Atlantic coastline of Florida. We'll be paralleling the coast all the way down. As we climb higher, we pass by St. Augustine, which is known as America's oldest city. Founded in 1565, it features unique buildings that are centuries old. It's a must-visit Florida city. We're climbing to our cruising altitude under the control of the Jacksonville Air Route Traffic Control Center, a high-altitude radar facility located in Hillard, Florida. We're now passing by Flagler Beach and Palm Coast as we approach our cruising altitude this morning. We've actually been told to fly away from the East Coast as other planes fly to Fort Lauderdale, like this American Airlines flight from Charlotte. Once behind that airplane, we turn back closer to the coastline, and before getting too close, we turn back to the left to continue in the line of flights to Fort Lauderdale. That brought us closer to Daytona Beach, where through the clouds I was able to see the Daytona International Speedway and the Daytona Beach Airport, which is adjacent to it. We've reached cruising altitude, and the flight attendants came by with light snack service. This is what I picked. We're now over a part of Florida that juts out a bit into the ocean, Cape Canaveral, and we're looking down at the NASA Shuttle Landing Facility. What a sight to see from up here. Up next is the Port Canaveral cruise ship and naval port, barely visible through the clouds. Unfortunately, the clouds began to really take over the view below as we flew over central Florida. Around this point, we switched control zones to the Miami Air Route Traffic Control Center located in Miami. Under the control of Miami Center, we'll begin our descent to the Fort Lauderdale area following standard terminal arrival procedures. For our descent, we'll be paralleling the coast, which unfortunately is not visible for most of the descent due to the clouds. Our landing today will be on runway 10 left, which heads to the east, so while northeast of the airport over the ocean, we'll start a right turn to the west, then we'll head inland over Fort Lauderdale. Upon reaching the Everglades, we'll then turn south, then east, to line up with the runway and land. It's not until we're much closer to landing when we can see the coast. Here we're looking at Deerfield Beach, Florida. This airport that we see here is Pompano Beach Airport, a general aviation airport. As we descend lower and talk to Miami Approach Control, the air traffic control facility that handles Fort Lauderdale arrivals and departures, we start our right-hand turn to the west over land. Unfortunately, there was a cloud cover as our flight crossed the shoreline. We're on the downwind leg now, passing by the Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport and over Interstate 95, which we've been paralleling the entire flight. We're continuing along over Lauderdale Lakes and Sunrise as approach control has us descend to lower altitudes. Due to a high volume of traffic coming into FLL this morning, we're going to be on this heading for a while. It's away from the airport. Have you noticed that the landscape has changed? We're no longer over a populated area and have continued over the Florida Everglades, a natural wetland in South Florida. Well into the Everglades, the approach controller has us make a U-turn back to the airport. We're back over a populated area after circling the western area. Next step is to line up with the runway and land after receiving clearance from the local control tower. So what did I think about my JetBlue experience? It was highly enjoyable. I was delighted to be on a special livery aircraft, and the interior of this teenage A320 was new and clean with a nice screen in front of me. Legroom was just what I needed. Understandably, there wasn't time for more to eat, and the flight attendants were very pleasant. What I really want to bring to my viewers is that no matter what airline you fly on, consider the views out the window. You can make your flight a learning experience by identifying what's below. After some time on this plane, I didn't even think about the airline I was flying on, but I marveled at the joy of flight. This will make the price of the ticket worthwhile no matter what airline you fly. We are clear to land on runway 10 left. 9,000 feet of runway are available for this A320 to come to a stop. As we approach the runway, we make a low pass over Interstate 95. Let's land. That was a great landing. As we clear the runway, the tower controller hands us off to the ground controller, who provides instructions on how to get to Terminal 3, the termination point for this aircraft today. After we deplane, another set of passengers is going to board this aircraft for Montego Bay, Jamaica. Let's listen to JetBlue's welcome announcement by the Fort Lauderdale-based crew.
JetBlue welcomes you to Fort Lauderdale, where the local time is 9:20 a.m. We'll be taxiing in here for a few minutes, so we ask at this time that everyone remain seated with their seatbelt securely fastened until we reach the gate and the captain turns off the seatbelt sign. Be careful when opening those overhead bins, as items tend to move during flight. If you are given a pink receipt, that's claim at gate, you may pick up those items right outside of the front boarding door. If you checked in any bags, your bags can be retrieved at the carousel. That would be carousel number 1. Carousel number 1 for any checked bags. If you need any help getting off the plane, feel free to remain seated after we arrive at the gate so we may better assist you. For information on any connecting flights or baggage claim, you may check the airport monitors or download our free JetBlue mobile app. Be sure to visit jetblue.com, where you can earn points on all of your flights, starting with today's flight. On behalf of all of us here at JetBlue, especially this Fort Lauderdale-based crew, we would like to thank you for choosing JetBlue, and we hope you and your loved ones remain healthy and safe. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Well, welcome to Fort Lauderdale. Boy, is it crowded in this terminal. My aircraft is continuing on to Montego Bay, Jamaica. Well, thanks so much for joining me on my flight from Jacksonville to Fort Lauderdale on JetBlue. Remember that if you're not a subscriber to my channel, I invite you to click on that subscribe button so you get alerts as to when I post new videos like this. So what am I doing in Fort Lauderdale? Well, from time to time, I like to show you what I did after I landed, and the next video is all about that. Come join me for a weekend cruise from Port Everglades in Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, and as in my past aviation videos and past cruise videos, I'll be giving you a unique look. Look out for the cruise video coming soon, or click the subscribe button so this channel shows in your subscription feed. See you at sea.